It was a quiet night in the small town of Millfield when Hannah, a high school sophomore, received a strange text message from an unknown number. The message read, "Be careful tonight. The moon shadow killer is on the loose. He preys on innocent teenagers like you." Hannah didn't know what to make of the message. Was it a prank from one of her friends? Or was it something more sinister? She tried calling the number back, but it was disconnected. Shaken, but determined not to let it ruin her night, Hannah and her friends decided to go to a bonfire at a nearby park. They laughed and joked, roasted marshmallows, and told ghost stories around the fire. But as the night wore on, Hannah couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching them. Suddenly, the power went out, plunging the park into darkness. Hannah's heart raced as she heard footsteps approaching. She tried to call out to her friends, but her voice caught in her throat. As the footsteps grew closer, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a man wearing a hooded sweatshirt, his face obscured by darkness. He had a knife in his hand. Hannah's friends scattered in all directions, leaving her alone with the killer. She tried to run, but stumbled on a rock and fell to the ground. The killer was upon her in an instant, raising the knife above his head. Just as the killer was about to strike, Hannah's phone rang. The sound startled him, and he hesitated for a split second. It was all the time Hannah needed to scramble to her feet and sprint away from the killer. She didn't stop running until she was home, safe in her bedroom, with the door locked. She sat there, shaking, unable to believe what had just happened. The moon shadow killer continued to terrorize the town for months, targeting teenagers at parties and hangouts. No one knew who he was or how to stop him. Hannah couldn't shake the memory of that night from her mind. She became obsessed with finding the killer and stopping him before he hurt anyone else. After weeks of digging through old newspaper articles and police reports, Hannah discovered a clue that led her to an abandoned house on the outskirts of town. There, she found the killer himself. Hannah remained level-headed despite her fear as she called the police, who arrived moments later to apprehend the moon shadow killer. Thanks to Hannah's quick thinking, the small town of Millfield was finally safe again, and the community came together to honor her bravery and perseverance. But Hannah knew she would never forget the horror of that night. She would always be vigilant against those who sought to do harm.